privilege to be able to be here with you, and I'll keep my remarks brief because I, like I know all of you, would rather listen to the survivors tell their stories than listen to me up here say stuff. So again, I'll be brief. Next, I really do have to acknowledge and thank all the veterans who are here today. Although you might not officially be known as our greatest generation, you're still pretty great in my eyes. Because whether you served in Korea, or Iraq, or Afghanistan, most especially those that served in Vietnam, it's because of what you went through that our military members today are so strongly supported and are treated with respect. All of us serving in the military today owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude for both what you did and how well you did it. December 7th, 1941 is a date that forever is etched into the American psyche, and it's a date that fundamentally changed the way Americans view the world and how the world views America. Back then, a Congress that had previously fought every effort by President Roosevelt to assist some of America's oldest allies against Nazi Germany and fascist Italy voted unanimously to declare war against Imperial Japan, knowing that Germany and Italy would, as a result, declare war on the United States. Since December 8, 1941, the United States has been at the forefront of the global stage. No one knew then the painful cost that the greatest generation would pay to avenge Pearl Harbor. It was a bright and clear day in Honolulu, Hawaii, still a territory of the United States, when torpedo planes, dive bombers, and fighters lifted from the decks of the Japanese aircraft carriers and made their way towards Oahu and the naval and the Army bases located on the island. The Japanese caught our forces by surprise during a routine Sunday spent in home port. The attack was devastating. The stated objective of crippling the American fleet was nearly accomplished. Every battleship in the Pacific Fleet was lost or beset with critical damage. It was fateful that the American carriers were at sea and not damaged in the attack. Who knows what would have happened if the Japanese plan fully succeeded. All told, 350 aircraft, 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, 4 destroyers, and a handful of mine layers and auxiliaries were damaged or lost, and 2,400 Americans were killed, with an additional 1,000 wounded in the attack that lasted just over 2 hours. The USS Arizona sits where she sank, the final resting place for nearly 1,200 sailors and Marines. The Arizona remains hallowed ground, one of 2 places that sailors and Coast Guardsmen render honors to, the other being President Washington's gravesite along the Potomac. It is often quoted that Admiral Giammanco perceptively said following the attack, "I fear that all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant," and filled him with terrible resolve. Pearl Harbor became the rallying cry for a generation of Americans. Every American rallied to support the war effort. Many joined the armed forces to serve in every theater of combat, from Europe to Africa to the islands in the Pacific, to here at home. What we now reverently refer to as the greatest generation showed the world the steely resolve of the United States and the unparalleled might a unified America could muster. Eventually, 16 million men and women would serve in our armed forces around the globe. All of America stood up and answered the call, and the challenge inherited from previous generations to preserve a nation conceived in liberty and justice. In the ensuing war years, we were introduced to faraway lands where deadly battles raged. Families hung a white banner with a blue star for each deployed family member. And communities grieved when blue stars turned to gold, signifying the loss of a loved one. By the end of the war, 400,000 Americans made the ultimate sacrifice. They gave the last full measure of devotion in the cause of freedom and democracy, consecrating numerous battlefields for the Allied cause. Today, this morning, we gather to remember and honor the events that started it all, the attack on Pearl Harbor. Few dates in American history carry the significance that December 7, 1941 does. The following day, America became a world leader and has not stepped down since. In the 74 years since, the United States has progressed and led the world through countless crises and actions seeking to preserve our noble experiment in representative government. Today, just as in 1941, some things are the same, with conflicts raging far from home, and families across the country displaying banners with blue stars, and sadly, gold stars too. Many of today's challenges, however, are different. Our military and our law enforcement agencies are locked in a war against violent extremism that seeks to end our system of government, touching us here in the homeland, just as the Japanese did. Today, we're also encountering non-state enemies who silently drop malicious computer code instead of bombs, and transnational organizations who sneak drugs and migrants across our borders instead of attack planes. In fiscal year 2015, the Coast Guard seized more cocaine at sea than we had in the previous 3 years combined. And just last month, the national security cutter homeported here in Alameda, the Bertolf, offloaded more than 25 tons of cocaine interdicted at sea in the Eastern Pacific, with resulting drug trafficking prosecutions spanning the nation from New York to Miami to San Diego, just showing how widespread this problem is. Today's defense budgets have been shrinking, and national unity is seemingly also ebbing. From pandemic illness to conflicts ranging from Syria and Iraq to Africa, our military is called on to address an ever-expanding range of threats. At times, legendary U.S. Marine Chesty Puller's quote comes to mind: "We're surrounded." That simplifies the problem. We can shoot in any direction. Today's military is far and away the most technologically advanced fighting force in history. But beyond the technology and the equipment we provide them, I'm continually amazed by the caliber of the men and the women that seek to serve in today's armed forces. These brave women and men are being asked to do more than ever before, and they do it in a most complex environment, with at times seemingly zero defect expectations, and one misstep being on video, on YouTube, on the news, or traveling across the globe on Twitter, Snapchat, or Instagram in minutes, if not seconds. I am truly impressed by the tremendous care, compassion, and courage they show both in day-to-day and crisis situations. And I take great comfort in knowing that the future of our country is in their able hands. They may not be called our greatest generation, but they, like those that preceded them, are pretty great themselves. I started out by saying I'd keep my remarks short because I want to hear the stories of the veterans and the Pearl Harbor survivors that are present here today. And I urge you to seek them out and listen to what they have to say. Let me end here and leave you with a timeless quote from President Truman as we recall this very day in Pearl Harbor 74 years ago and our World War II veterans. Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. Thank you. Semper Paratus. May God continue to bless the men and women who guard our coasts and our nation each and every day. Thank you.
Mr. Anthony Smith, who will now sing Eternal Father, Strong to Say.
Good morning, everyone. For those who have been here for years, we know what time it is. For the newcomers, guess what? We're now inducted and drafted into the choir. So this is a sing-along dance that you turn to the program, inside your program. The words are Eternal Father. The older members would know this, the younger members would just follow along. There is no bad note. There is no bad note. Every note is a good note. Are we ready? Yes.
You're exempt. World War II survivors are exempt.
All right. Let's do this. Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm has bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep his own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril